The Roman Empire, a name that echoes through time, it is a symbol of power, of grandeur, of a civilization that once dominated the known world. From the misty shores of Britannia to the sun-drenched sands of Syria, the Roman eagle soared. Roman law, Roman roads, Roman legions, these were the pillars of a world order that seemed destined to last forever. The emperors, both revered and feared, held the fate of millions in their hands. Yet even the mightiest of empires can crumble. The Roman Empire, for all its glory, was not immune to the forces of history. The seeds of its destruction were sown even in the days of its greatest triumphs. Like a mighty oak, slowly succumbing to rot from within, the Roman Empire began its slow, inexorable decline. What were the forces that brought down this giant? How did a civilization that had lasted for centuries simply vanish from the face of the earth? The answers, as with all history, are complex and multifaceted. To truly understand the fall of Rome, we must delve into the heart of the empire. We must examine the political machinations, the social unrest, and the relentless pressure from beyond the frontiers. This is the story of how an empire that once seemed eternal breathed its last. The Roman Empire, despite its outward strength, was plagued by internal weaknesses. Corruption, like a disease, began to eat away at the core of the once virtuous Roman spirit. Senators entrusted with the welfare of the people became more concerned with personal gain. Greed and ambition replaced duty and honor. The empire's economy, once a well-oiled machine, began to sputter. Constant wars and lavish spending had drained the treasury. Inflation soared, making life difficult for ordinary citizens. The once prosperous middle class dwindled, widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots. This economic instability further fueled social unrest. Adding to the empire's woes, the legions, once the pride of Rome, found themselves overstretched and demoralized. Centuries of constant warfare had taken their toll. The legions were no longer composed solely of loyal Roman citizens, but increasingly relied on foreign mercenaries, men with little loyalty to Rome. These mercenaries, while fierce warriors, were more interested in plunder than in defending Roman ideals. The empire that had once seemed invincible was now showing signs of strain. The cracks in the facade were becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. A series of weak and ineffective emperors only hastened the empire's descent into chaos. The stage was set for a dramatic and irreversible transformation. Beyond the frontiers of the Roman Empire, a new force was gathering strength. Driven by the Huns and lured by Roman wealth came the Goths. These Germanic tribes played a pivotal role in the empire's demise. The Goths had their own cultures, laws, and aspirations. The Romans underestimated the Goths, but the Goths were a formidable foe. The Battle of Adrianople in 378 AD marked a turning point. The Gothic cavalry crushed the legions led by Emperor Valens. The defeat sent shockwaves throughout the empire. The myth of Roman invincibility was shattered. They began to push further into Roman territory. Rome was now facing an existential threat. The Western Roman Empire, weakened by internal strife and overwhelmed by external pressures, entered its final act. The once mighty empire was a shadow of its former self. The Goths, now a major force within the empire, played an increasingly influential role in Roman politics. Alaric, the Visigothic leader, sacked Rome itself in 410 AD, an event that sent shockwaves throughout the world. The emperors, once symbols of stability and power, were now mere puppets in the hands of ambitious generals and barbarian warlords. The empire, once a unified whole, was now fractured into a patchwork of competing entities. Roman fought Roman as often as they fought the barbarians. The very concept of Romanitas, the shared identity that had bound the empire together, was disintegrating. The final blow came in 476 AD when Odoacer, a barbarian general, deposed the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus. The deposition of Romulus Augustulus is often seen as the symbolic end of the Western Roman Empire. The once mighty empire, which had ruled the Mediterranean world for centuries, was no more. In its place arose a patchwork of barbarian kingdoms. The fall of the Western Roman Empire was a cataclysmic event that reshaped the political and cultural landscape of Europe. It was not a sudden collapse, but rather a slow decline, a gradual unraveling of a once great power. The causes were many and complex, ranging from political corruption and economic instability to the relentless pressure of barbarian migrations. The Roman Republic, from which the empire sprung, was no stranger to internal conflict. Men like Julius Caesar and Augustus forged the empire through civil war. But the seeds of discord sown in the late empire were different. They were the seeds of apathy, greed, and erosion of civic virtues. Senators formed factions based on personal loyalty and wealth. Bread and circuses became a way of life, replacing hard work and civic duty. Rome, once a city of warriors, was becoming a city of spectators. In times of crisis, strong leadership is paramount. Yet, the Roman Empire in its twilight years was plagued by weak, incompetent, and bizarre emperors. Gone were the days of Augustus, Trajan, or Marcus Aurelius. In their place came figures more interested in indulgence than in guiding the empire. Take Elagabalus, who ascended to the throne in 218 AD. A teenager, he preferred lavish parties and religious eccentricities. His reign was a symptom of the rot at the heart of the empire. Then there was Honorius, who became emperor in 395 AD. Ill-equipped, he was oblivious to the growing threat posed by the Goths. These emperors were symptoms of a deeper malaise. The office of emperor had become a poisoned chalice. The system was failing, and the emperors were reflections of that failure. The Roman Empire, even at its zenith, was not a monolith. It encompassed a vast array of cultures, languages, and religions. This sense of unity began to fray in the late empire. A significant force was the growing division between the eastern and western halves. The east, with its ancient cities and wealth, was the empire's heartland. The west was more rural and vulnerable to barbarian incursions. Emperor Constantine established a new capital at Constantinople in 330 AD. Constantinople quickly became a center of power, eclipsing Rome. The West, starved of resources, was left to fend for itself. This division would eventually become a fatal flaw. Adding to the woes was the rise of Christianity. By the 4th century AD, Christianity became the official religion. Christianity provided a new sense of unity and purpose. Section 4. The weight of empire. The Roman Empire, for all its achievements, was ultimately a victim of its own success. Its vast size, while a testament to Roman power, also proved to be its undoing. The empire had grown too large, too complex, and too unwieldy. The machinery of government began to creak and groan under the strain. Maintaining order required a massive military presence. The legions, once citizen soldiers, now relied on foreign mercenaries. These mercenaries lacked the discipline and loyalty of their Roman predecessors. They were more interested in plunder than in glory. The cost of maintaining this military, coupled with lavish spending, strained the empire's finances. Taxes rose, leading to resentment among the populace. The middle class found itself squeezed, fueling social unrest. The empire's infrastructure began to crumble, making trade and communication difficult. The Gothic Migration. The Goths, Germanic tribes from the north, began encroaching upon the Roman frontier in the late 3rd century AD. Driven by pressure from the Huns and a desire for fertile Roman lands, the Goths posed a new challenge to Rome. They brought their families, livestock, and way of life. Seeking a place within Rome, they aimed to integrate on their own terms. Romans viewed these migrations with apprehension and disdain. The scale of migrations and internal weaknesses made settlement necessary. This confrontation would shake the empire to its core. Section 2. A clash of cultures. The interactions between the Goths and the Romans were fraught with misunderstanding and mistrust. The Romans, with their long history and codified laws, saw the Goths as uncivilized barbarians, lacking in culture and refinement. They viewed their customs as crude, their language as barbaric, their very presence a threat to the Roman way of life. The Goths, on the other hand, while admiring Roman wealth and organization, saw Roman decadence and corruption as signs of weakness. They valued courage, loyalty, and strength in battle, traits they found wanting in the increasingly effete Roman elite. They saw how Roman officials exploited their own people, how Roman emperors indulged in luxury while the frontiers crumbled, and they felt a sense of moral superiority. This cultural chasm made communication and compromise exceedingly difficult. Agreements were made and broken, often due to differing interpretations of the terms. Roman promises of land and provisions were often delayed or inadequate, fueling resentment among the Goths. Gothic raids, seen as acts of treachery by the Romans, were often acts of desperation or retaliation for perceived Roman betrayals. This cycle of mistrust and violence fed upon itself. Each encounter, each broken promise, each act of aggression deepened the divide between Goth and Roman, making a peaceful resolution increasingly elusive. The two peoples, locked in a deadly embrace, seemed destined to destroy each other. The Battle of Adrianople, a turning point. In 376 AD, Goths fled across the Danube, escaping the Huns. Emperor Valens allowed them in, seeking recruits and tax revenue. But Roman officials mishandled the situation, mistreating and starving the Goths. This led to a rebellion, escalating into war. On August 9, 378 AD, the armies clashed near Adrianople. The Gothic cavalry overwhelmed the Roman flanks. By nightfall, the Roman army was shattered, and Emperor Valens lay dead. Adrianople was a psychological blow from which Rome never recovered. Section 4, the sack of Rome, a wounded eagle. The Battle of Adrianople set in motion a chain of events that would prove fatal for the Western Roman Empire. The Goths, now powerful, roamed the Balkans, extracting concessions from a weakened Roman government. Alaric, a cunning leader, led his people on a campaign of pressure and plunder. In 410 AD, after broken promises, Alaric marched on Rome. The shockwaves of this event reverberated throughout the known world. It was a symbolic blow, a wound to the empire's pride from which it would never fully recover. Section 5, the shadow of things to come. The decades following the sack of Rome witnessed a steady erosion of Roman authority in the West. The Goths, under Alaric's successors, established a kingdom in southern Gaul, while other Germanic tribes, emboldened by Roman weakness, pressed their own claims on Roman territory. The Vandals crossed into North Africa, conquering the vital breadbasket of the empire, while the Franks consolidated their hold on northern Gaul. The Roman government, plagued by internal divisions and increasingly reliant on barbarian mercenaries to fight its battles, seemed powerless to stem the tide. The emperors, mere figureheads controlled by ambitious generals or barbarian kingmakers, drifted further and further away from the realities facing their people. The sack of Rome had shattered the illusion of Roman invincibility. The barbarians, once a distant threat, were now a permanent fixture within the empire, carving out their own domains, setting up their own kingdoms, and ultimately preparing to claim the mantle of power for themselves. The stage was set for the final act of the Roman drama, the fall of the Western Roman Empire and the dawn of a new age. The Roman Empire in its prime had been a marvel of centralized authority. This intricate web of power began to unravel in the late empire. Internal decay and external pressure pulled its threads loose. The Senate, once a symbol of authority, became a pale shadow. Marred by corruption and factionalism, it lost touch with reality. Emperors, once revered, faced challenges from all sides. The vast bureaucracy grew bloated and inefficient. Corruption flourished, officials neglected their duties. The legions, once powerful, became overstretched and underfunded. Reliance on foreign mercenaries eroded the legion's fighting spirit. The emperors of the late Western Roman Empire were, with few exceptions, a sorry lot. Gone were the days of Augustus, Trajan, or Marcus Aurelius. In their place came weak, incompetent figures, pawns of generals or barbarian kingmakers. Honorius, detached from reality, presided over the sack of Rome in 410 AD. Valentinian III was a puppet controlled by generals like Aetius. Aetius repelled Attila the Hun, but was assassinated in 454 AD. These emperors were symptoms of the empire's decline, reflecting political decay and eroded authority. The Roman Empire, even at its zenith, was a collection of disparate peoples, cultures, and languages. By the late 4th century AD, the empire was deeply divided by internal strife and external pressure. The most significant division was the growing chasm between the eastern and western halves. This division was exacerbated by the growing influx of barbarian tribes into the western provinces. Trade routes were disrupted, tax revenues plummeted, and the system of Roman administration broke down. Section 4. The illusion of control, barbarians at the gate. Barbarian tribes within the Roman Empire were not new. Rome dealt with them through conquest and diplomacy. Late empire migrations changed the relationship. Goths, Vandals and Franks sought to integrate, not just raid. They wanted a place within Rome on their terms. Willing to fight and negotiate, they served Rome if it suited them. This led to immense complexity and instability. Emperors relied on barbarian troops, fueling their ambitions. Barbarians became a shadow empire, eclipsing Roman power. Section 5. The sun sets on the west. A legacy in ruins. The year 476 AD marks a pivotal moment in history, the year in which the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed by Odoacer, a barbarian general. While the significance of this event has been debated by historians, it serves as a potent symbol of the Western Roman Empire's demise, the final act in a long and agonizing decline. The deposition of Romulus Augustulus, a teenager who had ruled for less than a year, was more of a whimper than a bang. Odoacer, rather than claiming the imperial title for himself, sent the imperial regalia to Constantinople, signifying that the West no longer needed an emperor, that its fate now rested in other hands. The Western Roman Empire did not collapse overnight. Its decline was a gradual process, a slow unraveling of institutions, a steady erosion of authority, a piecemeal conquest by a multitude of actors, both internal and external. By 476 AD, however, the empire that had once bestrode the Western world, that had given birth to a civilization that shaped the course of history, was no more. Section 1. The last emperor, a reign cut short. Romulus Augustulus, a mere boy on a crumbling throne, a pawn in deadly games of ambition. His father Orestes seized control, deposing Julius Nepos. Orestes placed his young son on the throne, hoping to rule through him. The empire was a hollow shell, its legions depleted, its provinces in revolt. Romulus Augustulus, a ruler without a realm, lasted less than a year. In 476 AD, Odoacer marched on Ravenna, ending the Western Roman Empire. Odoacer's ascendancy as a barbarian kingmaker is a tale of cunning and ambition. Having served in the Roman army, he was no stranger to the politics of Rome, witnessing firsthand the corruption, decay, and impotence that had come to characterize Roman rule. He saw emperors squander their inheritance, surround themselves with sycophants, and trade away the empire's strength for the illusion of peace. Observing the growing power of barbarian tribes like the Goths, Vandals, and Franks, and having fought both alongside and against them, Odoacer often found himself questioning his true allegiance. A product of his time, he stood between the dying light of Rome and the rising dawn of a new age. With the deposition of Romulus Augustulus, Odoacer faced a pivotal choice. He could claim the imperial title or attempt to revive the Western Roman Empire. But recognizing the futility of such actions, he chose a different path. Sending the imperial regalia to Zeno in Constantinople, he declared the West had no need for an emperor, content to be ruled by him, a patrician of Rome. The year 476 AD marks the fall of the Western Roman Empire, a significant moment that closed a chapter in human history spanning centuries. This year was not so much a sudden cataclysm, but the culmination of a long, agonizing decline. The deposition of Romulus Augustulus by Odoacer was symbolic, signaling the end of an era. By then, the empire was a ghost of its former self, its legions shattered, its treasury depleted, and its provinces ruled in all but name by barbarian warlords. Consumed from within by corruption, decadence, and a loss of civic virtue, its citizens had grown apathetic, more concerned with personal well-being than the fate of the empire. The barbarians, once a distant threat, had become a constant reminder of Rome's weakness. The fall was not a single event, but a slow unraveling of institutions, a gradual disintegration of authority, and a piecemeal conquest by both internal and external actors. By 476 AD, the empire that had once bestrode the Western world had breathed its last. Though the Western Roman Empire fell, it did not signify the complete erasure of Roman civilization. The East, centered around Constantinople, thrived for another 1,000 years, preserving Roman law, literature, and culture. In the West, the legacy of Rome lived on, transformed and fragmented. The barbarian kingdoms that emerged were not merely agents of destruction, but also heirs to Roman civilization, adopting its laws, customs, and language to varying degrees. The Catholic Church played a crucial role in preserving Roman learning and providing continuity in a rapidly changing world. Roman infrastructure like roads, aqueducts, and public buildings continued to shape Western Europe's landscape for centuries. Roman law laid the foundations for the legal systems of many European nations. Thus, the fall of the Western Roman Empire was not an end, but a transformation, a fragmentation, a reimagining of what it meant to be Roman in a world no longer dominated by a single power. In the ruins of the empire, the seeds of a new Europe, a blend of Roman and barbarian influences, were sown. Section 5. A New Dawn, A Different World, The Legacy of the Fall. The fall of the Western Roman Empire marked the end of antiquity and the beginning of the Middle Ages. It was a time of upheaval, violence, and renewal. The old order gave way to a decentralized world with new kingdoms and identities. The fall profoundly impacted Western civilization, leading to fragmentation and innovation. Roman law, language, and culture continued to influence Western Europe. The Catholic Church preserved Roman learning and provided continuity. The fall marked the end of an era and the birth of a new world, shaped by Rome's legacy. Section 1. The Tapestry of Decline. The Roman Empire, once a beacon of civilization, succumbed to internal decay and external pressures. Its fall was a slow, agonizing decline, a gradual unraveling of its fabric. Internal corruption, like a disease, ate away at the empire's core. Greed and ambition infected its leaders, from emperors to corrupt officials. The Roman legions, weakened by constant warfare, were a shadow of their former selves. The arrival of the Goths and other tribes presented a unique challenge. The Battle of Adrianople in 378 AD shattered the Roman legions. The sack of Rome in 410 AD delivered a psychological blow from which the empire never recovered. Section 2. Echoes in the Present. The fall of the Roman Empire, though a historical event from a distant past, holds profound lessons for the present day. It serves as a stark reminder that even the most powerful and seemingly invincible empires can crumble and fall, victims of their own internal contradictions and the relentless march of time. The parallels between the late Roman Empire and the challenges facing the modern world are striking. Today we grapple with issues of political polarization, economic inequality, environmental degradation, and the rise of new global powers, all of which echo the turmoil that engulfed Rome in its twilight years. Just as the Roman Senate became mired in corruption and gridlock, unable to address the pressing issues of the day, so too do many modern governments struggle to find common ground and enact effective policies. The allure of short-term gain often trumps the pursuit of long-term solutions, leaving critical problems to fester and grow. The influx of barbarian tribes into the Roman Empire, driven by a complex mix of factors, finds resonance in the modern-day challenges of migration and globalization. As people move across borders in search of better opportunities or fleeing conflict and poverty, nations grapple with how to manage these flows, balance humanitarian concerns with security considerations, and preserve their own cultural identities in an increasingly interconnected world. Section 3. The Enduring Legacy. The fall of the Western Roman Empire was not simply an end, but also a beginning. It marked the end of an era, but also the birth of a new world. Roman law, language, and culture continued to influence Western civilization. The Catholic Church preserved Roman learning and provided continuity. The fall reminds us that history is cyclical, not linear, yet it also offers a message of hope. From the ashes of Rome rose a new Europe, diverse and resilient.